Good morning, everybody. This is Steve from VanillaIP, and this morning we're going to be looking at branding of our solution and in terms of how you can sort of bespoke it for your own use. So I think a couple of things to say is that an important part of your differentiation is not just the actual branding of the elements, so such as data sheets, user guides, invoices. We're going to touch on all of these points, but an absolute key requirement for you guys, we believe, in looking at who you're going to partner with in the hosted PBX market is what sort of feature differentiation they can also give you. Because it's one of those things where, people talk about white label. Yeah, we've got a white label solution. It's very easy to say that. What does it mean in real terms? Because what we are seeing is that we're having a lot of existing resellers or potential resellers that are coming back to us second time round. So it's an indication that I think perhaps some things are maybe not so obvious when you first start looking at the market. So firstly, we're going to look at some of the feature differentiation, and then we're going to look at, like I say, the branding elements, and that's really the twin pillars of our solution that we're proposing for you today. Okay, so firstly, just to recap the product, this isn't a product presentation. I'm not going to drill into what all of these things are, but I think it's a really important point to make that there's a lot of differences in sort of these BroadSoft platforms and who's exposing which features, and this is all very relevant for you. I think certainly if you're looking at the market today, BroadSoft is absolutely the platform you want to be going with. Certainly in the UK and very much globally, they are the market leaders. There's no question there. I mean, a few years ago there still is, providers based on Asterisk services, Asterisk platforms, and doing some sort of managed services with some PBX and stuff like that. That's not to disparage any of those guys, but I think the reality is that those solutions are if you do them direct for a customer, that's okay. But in terms of a sort of a true white label, multi-tenant hosted platform, BroadSoft's the only option. So of course that's what we're talking about today. We've got a BroadSoft platform, but I think it's important just to touch on a couple of things, and that is that they're not all the same, basically. The BroadSoft platforms differ wildly. I mean, I've thrown up a couple of things there that I think are just to touch on quickly. Things like call centers. We're the only people in the UK that are delivering the premium call centers on BroadSoft. So straight away, if you want to compete in that market, and we've got custom applications as well and custom reports. I'm not going to talk about the call centers, but I'm just trying to pull out a couple of things that in terms of actually when you're trying to brand up a product, when you're trying to create some services and packages and actually stand out in the market and be successful, these are the kind of tools you need. You need to be able to deliver these high-end solutions. So there's a couple of things that are relevant here as well, I should say. Just again, touching on the BroadSoft element, is that I think sometimes there's a misconception that BroadSoft does everything. But in actual fact, it doesn't. It does about 20% of the solution, the overall service wrap that you want to give to your customer. BroadSoft's the switch, basically. That's it makes the voice element work and some of the apps, but all the provisioning and billing and everything else isn't there. So just to summarize that point, I think it's important to be asking any provider you want to partner with, honestly, how many in-house software developers have you got? Because that's these guys are the glue that sort of knit all of these different elements together and give you, like I say, a single sort of product you can deliver to your customer, single portal. You're not going off to 5 different portals for call recordings, call logs, billings, all that kind of stuff. So just to say, absolutely, we've got the deepest feature penetration in the UK, and I think that's really something that when you're talking to our sales teams and looking at your options, it's really important to drill into these differences on the platform. Okay, so that's great. We've got a great platform. What does it mean to you? So our view is that basically the market's moved on a lot. Okay, these one bundle solutions that were all the rage a few years ago, that's not going to cut it anymore. The market's much more sophisticated, customers are more sophisticated, the products are more sophisticated. That in itself is a challenge because, how do we've got all this smart technology, how do we actually bundle it all, automate it all? How do we actually, we've gone and sold 50 seats to a customer, how do we actually deliver that? How's that whole process working? So part of our sort of, frankly, a unique proposition we've got is that we're exposing everything on the platform, our own custom apps, everything BroadSoft's got, but we're presenting it in a way through our UBOS platform that you can actually take these different packages and services and knit them together into making a unique solution. So for example, you can take a base seat, you can add some mobility packages and services. Again, I'm not talking about what all the services are. I think the key takeaway is that you guys can create custom packages. Obviously with custom, your own price points, your own names and all that kind of stuff. I think, if you contrast that with, if you look at other providers that are doing one bundle solutions, it's a fixed price, it's got a set of services in it, and it's the same as every other one of their resellers. I mean, you potentially could end up with a scenario that is exactly, and this is the case, you end up with a solution that's exactly the same as 100 other resellers. It's even called the same name. All they've got to do is jump on Google. Next thing you know, they can get 5 quotes for exactly the same solution. And how do you compete? You drop the price. That's the only differentiation you can then do at that point. So that's a scenario that is you cannot grow a successful cloud business with that kind of an environment. So that is not going to happen with us. Basically, we're giving you complete freedom, guys, that you can really put this together however you like, and there's a huge amount of flexibility. You can even take services out of packages and then use them as an upsell license. So for example, you might take out, we have flexible seating, which is BroadSoft's latest implementation of their hot disking technology. And if you're in a competitive situation, by the way, if you don't have flexible seating on your BroadSoft, then you won't win that bid. But you could take flexible seating guest, that's the log-on service, you could take that out of a base package and then have it as an upsell solution for £1 a month. Maybe you wouldn't get that granular all the time, but if you're in a specific bid where there's a scenario where the customer's really big on hot disking across sites or whatever the case may be, you do have that option. So like I say, so it can work both ways. You can bundle things up and you can strip things out and have them as an upsell option, however you want to play it. Okay, the other thing we've got is of course contract rules. So term rebates, automated volume discounts. So if the customer buys, if they committed to buying 50, any seats over 50, they get a 10% discount. All of these kind of things we can support. It's all automated within the UBOS portal. It's an important point to make, because when we're talking about products, we're not just talking about the phone on the desk and the voicemails and the apps and all that kind of stuff. In terms of actually being different in this market and actually maximizing the revenue opportunity. I mean, you want to win the deals, that's great, but you want to absolutely maximize the revenue opportunity in those deals you are winning. Contract rules and this commercial flexibility, that is actually a part of the product itself these days, particularly with FDs, frankly, having as much say over moving to these SaaS models as the IT directors have. So that's certainly worth bearing in mind when we're talking about product here. It's a really, there's lots of different ways you can cut the solution. Okay, so now moving on to actually branding. We've got the products, we've built all the products, that's great. How do I take it to market? What turnkey options have we got for you? Okay, so let's just break down the actual branding. So this is the logoing of the product, really. We've got, just to step through the different elements, okay? We've got the first point we've touched on. You guys have used our solution to make a unique product in the market, and we're all set, we're ready to go. Voice Start. So Voice Start is our web URL that we create for you guys that's got all of our, and I'm going to step onto some screen slides in a minute, but Voice Start basically is a central repository for you where it's got all of your branded documents. So everything that your sales guys need, everything you want to share with your customers, data sheets, user guides, all that kind of stuff, install links to the apps and various other how-to guides, it's all there. Our UBOS portal, we prefix it basically. We have had subdomain off UBOS so that it's so your reseller branding is reflected in that URL basically. Again, within the portal itself, and we've got some screen grabs here. Naturally, your logo is in the portal. On the invoice, if you're using the billing with us, that all of the branding comes out on the invoice naturally, of course, and you can also put your own promotional PDFs and all that kind of stuff. You can get automatically sent out with the email gets sent out. A couple of unique ones actually to finish up. Logo on the iPhone, on the IP phone screen. That's there's actually quite a bit of smarts actually in how to make this all work, and it's slightly dependent on the phone because the different types of phones and different quality. More expensive phones have bigger, nicer displays, higher pixel density, etc. So that makes the logo display well. But certainly this stuff is all getting automated totally and all getting driven out of the UBOS platform. So in terms of the phone device configuration, you can configure all the buttons and everything else. But for the purpose of this webinar, we're just saying that listen, we can put your logo on the customer's desktop, okay? And lastly, with the Unity applications, so these are some call control apps that are unique to us. There's a range of them. They sit across sort of hosted UC, regular hosted PBX user, and also the call center and reception consoles. All of these have so these are for Windows and Mac, and they basically have your logo on. So it's a 100% totally joined up branding experience, basically. Okay, so I just want to finish up sort of summarizing a couple of things. Sorry, that was a couple of takeaways on so the invoice on the right hand side, Unity is at the bottom, the screen in the middle on the phone, and the voice start basically at the top left. So that's like I say, that's a repository where you can click in and pull out different assets that are all branded up as you. So I think that's an important thing to say, actually, because I know that there's one of our competitors that's got a sort of a library where you go in and you log on and you click around and upload things and generate and blah, blah, blah. That, you don't have to do any of that. We've done it all. That's just, you don't have to do anything. You just go in there, it's all branded up and it's all ready to go. Okay. Great. So I just wanted to finish up, but trying to bring this together really in terms of, I think, some of the things that in our experience we recommend that you need to perhaps ask or certainly look at, some things that maybe are hidden a little bit when you're sort of evaluating your options. Premium call centers, I've touched on this before. There's two types of call centers on BroadSoft, the standard and there's premium. I think we're the only people with a channel proposition doing premium in the UK. It's a really important point because we've got the premium call centers and we've also got the custom call center applications, the Unity Supervisor, Unity Desktop, Unity Agent. All of these things wrapped up together. This is the kind of higher value business that I think that that we all want to be winning. Call center business. It's stickier business. They're less sort of price sensitive. If you've got the solution they want, it's a higher value business. We have a lot of success with it, and when we're up against other BroadSoft providers that don't have the same functionality, and the customer can see that difference, we're in a very powerful situation. That's what you want to get into. You want to get into scenarios where you have an absolute competitive advantage over the other guys that are in the bids. Secondly, again, this is tying on to my point about the custom development. I mentioned here this can be extended into a lot of different things in terms of the analytics and reporting in the system, but basically that doesn't come from BroadSoft. Okay, that has to be developed by the service provider. So that's all being developed by our guys. And again, the last point is, and I think this is the first question absolutely you should be asking people is, how many portals? How many portals is this customer going to have or the ops team as well? If you guys are going to go and provision some connectivity, some BroadSoft, all that kind of stuff, you're going to configure the devices, you want to specify the buttons to do this, you want to put some logos on. Actually, how many places is your ops, your provisioning team going to have to go to actually execute that? Okay, and in the same vein, how many portals is the customer going to go and see? Because it's one of the things that you just can't fudge that, really, I don't think, because it's not a unified solution for the customer. If they have to go somewhere for, like I say, call logs, and there's a different login and there's a different menu navigation and all that kind of stuff's different to the billing, and the call recordings are somewhere else. So you have to be able to bring the whole thing together. And I mentioned here GSM Mobile as well. I mean, that's an example of, our concept of bringing it all together is not just bringing in the BroadSoft centric elements, So within our call logs, for example, and our call recordings, if you're doing call recordings off the mobile and off the IP phone on the desk, that's all in there. It's all virtually real-time call logs. What data you've been using on the mobile device, on the SIM, everything's broken into a user level. It's just, like I say, it's not specifically related to branding, but when we're talking about branding, we're talking about how are we going to help you guys be different and then have us all be successful in the market together. And these things are, in our experience, crucial to doing that. So in summary, just bear in mind, I think that BroadSoft's 20% of it's 20% of the solution. To be quite honest, there's a lot more happening that needs to be taken care of aside from that. So that really concludes, I think, what we had to say today on, like I say, on branding and how we want you guys to be different and how we all want to work together. On the right-hand panel, you'll be able to open some questions, and I'm not sure if we've got any just yet. Okay, guys, we haven't had any questions coming in, so I'd encourage you to contact us directly, or if you're already talking to us, talk to your account manager, or you're welcome to contact me directly as well. Just ask for Steve, and we can go through and recap any of these things offline. Thanks for joining. Appreciate your time. Bye-bye.